Hey everyone, Brandon here with Galloway Precision. Today we're going to go over the installation of the Santiago short stroke kit in the bodyguard, but rather than use the increased rate hammer spring, we're going to go over installing it with your stock hammer spring using the .050 spacer that is included with the kit. Alright, so first things first, let's go over tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 1/8 inch punch, you need a large brass punch, 1/16 inch punch, 050 Allen wrench, brass and polymer hammer or combo like this, your bench block, some decent gun oil, this is Tetra, and either blue Loctite or VC3. Now, if you are using our trigger installation kit, which has VC3, go ahead right now, remove your trigger from the kit, take the post-travel screw out, pardon me, and go ahead and apply the VC3, and then pause the video for 15 to 20 minutes. The VC3 takes about 20 minutes to cure completely, and then you'll be ready for installation then. Unlike Loctite, that stuff needs time to cure before you actually put the screw in to what you're wanting it to lock up against. Alright, so we've gone over tools, we've gone over that. Let's go ahead and lock and clear the weapon. We are visually and physically empty. Let's go ahead and strip the slide. First half of the video we're going to concentrate on the grip frame, and then we'll concentrate on the slide. The slide's actually easier, however we're going to have to move the camera over to the vise so we can get a look at how we're going to do that. Alright, so go ahead and take your slide and takedown, set them off to the side. And get you some of your black coffee. Take your bench block, if you've got one of ours, flip it over to the flat side. If you're using one similar to this, same thing, just make sure it's on the flat side of the bench block. We're going to go ahead and knock out our frame pins with our 1/8 inch punch. Whoa. And that comes to my next point, even though I knew better. Make sure after you take the frame pins out, we'll go ahead and put the chassis back in so I can show you what I'm talking about, since it just decided to do it on its own. So when you remove the frame pins, remember everything's under spring tension with the hammer spring. Alright, so what can happen, what just did happen, the way we're going to try and prevent that from happening is as you get the last frame pin out, whichever one you take out first, front or rear, doesn't matter, there's no rhyme or reason. Make sure you keep a hold of it like this, alright, so that it can't fling out like that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take our thumb and forefinger and we're going to make sure that our thumb's over the takedown hole and our fingers over where the trigger bar is. Reason for that being, when we go to pull this out, again, everything's still under spring tension. This is your slide stop spring. It has a tendency of just disappearing. We do sell these on the website. I highly suggest getting a couple extra. They wear out very quickly, taking the pistol down to clean and whatnot. And then the trigger bar is under spring tension from the trigger return spring, and it likes to pop and fly off too. So let's go ahead and take our trigger bar off, flip it over, keep your thumb over the slide stop spring, remove the slide stop. Alright, then your spring. Now we're going to take our 1/8 inch punch. We're going to set the grip frame out of our way first, along with the hammer spring. We're going to take that, we're going to push the trigger pivot out. Take our stock trigger, set it off to the side, and we're going to take and push the hammer pin out, and take the lifter and hammer and strut out. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our new trigger out, put the old trigger in the bag. Remember, you're going to keep all your stock parts. Reason being, if you have to send the gun in for warranty work, you need to return it to stock. You send it in for warranty work, any manufacturer, Glock being the exception with ghost trigger bars, any manufacturer is going to replace all aftermarket parts, return it to stock, and send it back to you that way. And not return your aftermarket parts. So remember, keep your stock parts. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the hammer and the hammer spring spacer out. Keep your reduced power firing pin blocker spring in the bag so we don't lose them. Alright, so let's go ahead and take our bench block. We're going to take our 1/16 inch punch. We're going to drive the hammer pin out. Okay, take your stock hammer, put it in the bag with your trigger. And we're going to take the 1/16 roll pin that comes in your stock, get it started. You can push it in to the new hammer. The tricky part's going to be keeping it lined up. Now, I use roll pin punches. I actually sell roll pin punches as well on the website. But if you don't have a roll pin punch, the other thing you can do is take a small pair of pliers. If you're having a hard time getting it to stand, don't crush it, just barely hold it, so you got something to guide what you're doing. Alright, so now that we've got that started, go ahead and what you want is about that. Alright, and it's probably sticking out a little too far. If you get it, start driving it and it's sticking out that much, you're not going to be able to get the hammer strut completely in. So rather than mess up the roll pin, we're going to tap that back out just a little bit. Alright, enough to get the strut into place. Alright, now we can take our 1/8 inch punch and finish driving it home. And you don't got to He-Man this, okay? Just give it a good solid tap until you're sure that it's equidistant on both sides like that, okay? And you're done. You don't have to sit here and beat on the thing. If you're using a hard bench block, you run the risk of breaking the strut or the pin if you beat on it too much. Alright, so let's go ahead and reinstall our hammer. Make sure you have your lifter faces that direction the way the hammer sits, okay? If you put it on this way, it will go back together. The gun's not going to work, and you will end up breaking probably the hammer trying to make it work. So make sure you have the lifter facing the correct direction. Go ahead and slide that up on in there. And take our hammer pin, put it in. Now we're going to take our 050 Allen wrench. We're going to take the over travel screw out of our Santiago trigger. If you've already applied VC3 at the beginning of the video and paused it and you're back, you're good to go. Just go ahead and install it. If you're using blue Loctite, apply to the screw. Don't need a ton. And we're going to go ahead and put it on in. Make sure that you wipe the excess off the front. Now, we're going to go ahead and put our trigger in. Take your trigger pivot. Push it on through. If you need to, you can give it a little tap. Some of these trigger pivots, for whatever reason, the hole on the left side of the chassis isn't exactly on size like it's supposed to be. So when you go to put them back in, you'll have a hard time getting it to pop through the other side. Just give it a little tap. It doesn't take much. You don't have to sit here and beat it. Alright, just tap it and it'll get on through to the other side. Alright, now we're going to take our gun oil. Make sure you oil your trigger bar channel. Alright, doesn't take a lot. And then wipe your excess off. Got a nice thin coat of oil. Put our trigger bar on, making sure that we're rotating the trigger return spring from 2 back to about 9. It does not go forward, it goes counterclockwise, okay? Flip, ooh. That trigger return spring's no joke, so make sure you keep your finger over it. It'll whack you good, won't hurt you, just sting a bit and make you mad. Put your slide stop on. Take our slide stop spring. Making sure, keep your thumb on the bottom part because you're going to spring the top part under this ledge right here. Okay. Alright, so we've got the hammer spring and the grip frame. We're going to take our 050 spacer, going to go ahead and put it on the hammer strut. Put our safety on. Alright, make sure that the hammer spring is seated down in its little spot inside the grip frame. Kind of hard to see, but when you look down in there, you'll see a little hole with a divot in the middle, and that's where the hammer strut goes into. Alright, so now making sure that the hammer spring's on the strut and stays seated. Alright, compress it all together. Take your polymer hammer, drive your first frame pin in. You can go ahead and take the safety off, pull the trigger. That will get your pre-travel stop out of the way so you can push the front end of the chassis all the way in. Take our polymer hammer, knock that in. Alright, now what we're going to do, take our 1/8 inch punch and make sure that we're equidistant on both sides of the frame so one side's not sticking out the other. Okay. Reason being because it kind of hurts when it sticks out and you go to fire it and it jabs you real good. Alright, so we can do a basic function check right now without the slide on just to make sure that everything's good. Go ahead and cock the hammer, pull the trigger. Cock the hammer, pull the trigger. Alright, so we know everything's together in the grip frame correctly. So let's go ahead and move on to the slide and then we'll put it all together, functions check, and we'll be done. Alright, so now we're ready to go ahead and remove our rear sight. So let's go ahead and take our guide rod and spring out, take our barrel out. Now, you can use cardboard to keep from hurting the finish on the slide. I have leather, just like, you know, we use pieces of leather that we can put in here, that works too. But cardboard's just fine. Alright, so if you don't have any leather or anything soft like that, get you a good, decent piece of cardboard. Alright, if you got enough space, you know, slide in the vise. You don't want to over squeeze it because you will mess up the frame rails. Not the frame rails, correction, the rails on the slide itself, and then it won't go on the frame. Alright, you just need it snug. Alright, so then we're going to take our brass punch, or knock that loose. Take a cleaning brush, and most of you are going to have hops number 9 at home. Put a little hops on that. Scrubs right off. Alright, this has been used so many times it's just got hops basically impregnated in it now, so it takes it right off real nice, clean, real easy. Alright, so go ahead and loosen the vise. You're going to flip it upside down. You're going to take out the blocker and the blocker retainer, spring retainer, the plate. Once I figure out what I'm trying to do right now, good lord, I'm having a hard time today. It's my birthday, give me a break. Alright, so we got that done. I'm going to take our new springs out of the bag. I'm going to take your old blocker spring, put it in the bag. And take your new blocker spring, set it down in the blocker, set it off to the side. Alright, you can do all this right here too, so we don't have to pause the video again. You can take your 1/16 punch, put your bench block upside down, center the hole. Alright, now you don't have to drive this pin all the way out. Alright, you just need it enough, you'll feel it happen on the 1/16. Once it clears the extractor, you'll feel it pop. So then you can just squeeze the extractor, pull your pin out, extractor spring. You're going to take and tap. Alright. Take you some tweezers or a small pair of pliers. And you can bang it until it completely comes out, but remember that firing pin's under spring tension, so if you're going to do it that way, keep your hand behind it. So when it does come out like that, it doesn't go flying off and you lose it. Alright, so you can take your firing pin spring out, put it in the bag. Alright, we got our pin. Alright, we're going to take our new firing pin spring. Put the new firing pin spring on. Now when you go to reinstall this, make sure that the cut in the front is facing down and cut to the rear that engages the blocker is facing up. Right. So when you put it together, and you push in, you should see a flat spot right there, okay, where it links up with the blocker. All right, so we're going to take our takedown pin, get it started, push the firing pin forward, and that does like to turn on you sometimes, so what you can do is just put minimal pressure on the firing pin retaining pin to help it not rotate. Push it down with the with your 1/8 inch punch, except now it's just wanting to mock me, which it sometimes will do this, so you can sit here and finagle with it a little bit. Alright. Oh. Take your pin, put it in. Alright, once it's lined up correctly, just push the pin all the way in. Take your extractor spring, put it back in. Take your extractor, go ahead and put it in, compress it, take your brass side, tap it until it gets started in the extractor. Then you'll take your 1/8 inch punch. Let's do this down here so it doesn't look like I'm trying to beat you. Just knock it home flat. And take our blocker and spring, put it in, put the blocker plate on. Take your rear sight, go ahead and get it started. You can start with the polymer, tap it in. Oh, cardboard. And we're going to put it back in the vise. Remember, we're not crushing it, we just want it snug. Snug enough it doesn't really move. Okay? Take our brass hammer, or correction, brass punch and brass hammer. Now the way I do this, I've driven it too far to one side, is I just try and center it up back where it was, because honestly the sights on this thing are pointless. This is a pocket gun. This is for is you shoot them in the stomach to make them let go, and then you shoot them in the mouth and make them regret it. Alright, so we're done there. Let's go ahead and take our cleaning brush and get our brass off. This is also why you use brass punches for things like this, because steel on steel, A, you're not going to get it out, B, you're going to mess up the finish, and C, it's just going to gouge the crap out of the sight. Alright, so now that that's done, let's move back over, put it back together, functions test, and we'll be ready to go. Alright, so we are back over at the bench mat. Now we're going to put everything together, function test, and you'll be ready to go. Alright, let's go ahead and put our barrel in, guide rod and spring, get that started. Now when you go to put this on, alright, you need to make sure that the hammer is not cocked. If the hammer is cocked, you're going to sit here and bash the slide, and you're going to end up breaking your lifter. When the hammer is cocked, the lifter is up in the way, okay? So you can't get it on. You have to make sure that the hammer is down so that the block or lifter is forward. Let's go ahead and slide it on. Now what I do to make this a whole lot easier is I get the barrel lug lined up, I put the takedown in ahead of time. What ends up happening, I get a lot of emails of people trying to rack the slide all the way to the rear. They end up getting in front of or behind the barrel lug, and then nothing's going to work because the barrel's not being held in place. So this is definitely the easiest way to do it. And go ahead and rack it back, put your slide stop up, press that home. Alright, now do a functions check. Alright, go ahead and pull and hold the trigger, rack the slide, release. You'll get 2 reset clicks. If you do not get 2 reset clicks, it's a tolerance issue with your grip frame. Email me. I will walk you through the instructions on what you need to fit. It's not the trigger. It's the grip frame. Do not alter the trigger. You want to alter the grip frame. Alright, so now that we know that works, go ahead and rack it again. Safety's on. Trigger should not fall. Safety off. Trigger falls. Right, now that we've got our functions test, we've got our basic function down, let's go ahead and adjust our post-travel screw. You're going to turn it all, not all the way out because then it'll fall, but I like to turn it out quite a bit. Pull. You want to turn this out until the hammer does not fall, okay? You also need to keep in mind that the tolerances on these guns vary greatly from pistol to pistol, so you may not get as much over travel pulled out as you see in the video, because every single one of these is different. They're not exactly high quality pistols. Great for what they are, and taken to a whole new level with the kit in it. I've had these before. I own two. Wasn't impressed until I put our kit in it, and now, you know, they're mainstays. Alright, so we're getting there. Alright, so when you get to the point where the hammer does not fall, you're going to turn counterclockwise 1/4 turn at a time until the hammer does fall. Alright, once the hammer falls, you're going to give it one more 1/4 turn. Alright, that gives you enough room that once the gun starts getting heat transfer, if you're shooting with it a lot and things start to expand, things start to swell, the plastic starts to shrink, the metal swells out, you're not 50 rounds into practice and then, oh, it's not working from heat transfer. So always make sure you give it that one more 1/4 counterclockwise and you're done. You're set. Your post travel's set and she is ready to go. And that's it, guys. Real simple, real easy install. If you don't feel comfortable doing the install, no problem. We do the installation in-house as well. For a $50 fee, you pay shipping both ways, plus cost of the kit. So not too bad. But this is the game changer in the bodyguard. Is the Santiago kit. Definitely worth the investment. If you have bodyguard, makes the pistol the way it should be from the factory. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at that's Tango Echo Charlie Hotel at GallowayPrecision.com. Be sure to follow us on social media here on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe below. Be sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram, and go check out our Vimeo page. Be sure to go by the website and or the Facebook page and sign up for the monthly newsletter. Stay up to date on everything that we're doing and what the monthly sale is going to be. You find out what the sale is going to be with the newsletter easily 2, 3, 5 days before we release it out on social media. So it's always good to sign up for the newsletter. You're the first to know what's going to be the monthly sale. And as always, be safe, be accurate, and God bless.